This is a TV show called Caleb and Sophia. If you're unfamiliar, it's produced by Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's propaganda for children. I've been going through all of the episodes. I did all of them a long time, like years ago, but with fresh eyes and fresh information coming out about Jehovah's Witnesses, even recently, I wanted to go back through from beginning to end. The episodes we're looking at are Love Your Neighbor, Making Friends, and Why Obey God If We Can't See Him. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses generally group them into types of episodes, I guess you could say, and this grouping is about how you should treat people on the outside of the religion. Now, they do have one full episode on that, which I'm going to cover, but leading up to that episode, they produced these three. So let's see what Jehovah's Witnesses have to say to children about friendships with the outside world and the friendships you have inside the religion and all of that stuff. How should you run your life? All right, the first one is called Love Your Neighbor, Lesson 38. Check this out. Sounds like traditionally Indian music. So there's a girl that walks onto the bus, probably her first time at the school, I'm assuming. Is that what's being implied here? I don't know.
Who is that? Does she go to our school?
And she's odd, so she's different, so she's always being attacked and picked on. Yep, traditional school. Absolutely, I understand. That's what it's like to be a Jehovah's Witness, by the way, in school. You're constantly degraded and made fun of and attacked. You know why? Because they encourage children to preach to their classmates. Convert your classmates. If you don't, then you're not pleasuring Jehovah like a young boy should.
Good morning, everyone. We have a new classmate. Her name is Priya from India.
That's actually pretty cool. This is super common in New York City schools. I'm in New York City right now, and white people may actually be the minority group in New York City. I don't know. But walking down the street, you see people of so many different backgrounds and ethnicities and religious backgrounds and everything. You see Sikhs and Hindus and Muslims and people of all types. I think New York City has the most languages spoken in one city, which is somewhere in the vicinity of 800 something. New York City is so extremely diverse. So I know this type of thing happens a lot in the outside world, outside of cities, but this is not very uncommon in cities.
Yeah.
She's from where?
I don't know. I've never
Do they really not know where India is?
heard of it.
Okay, so let's work in pairs again. Who needs a partner and can team up with Priya?
Hey, Sophia. We're a team, right?
And I guess this is like implying that this girl is really annoying and she doesn't want to be friends with her? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, great. So, for the first page, I'm thinking we can do this and then that.
She's taken.
Okay, apparently bullies like to smack their lips when they chew. And nice people don't smack their lips. See how gracefully and carefully this person is chewing? She's not smacking her lips like a, I don't know, like a what? What smacks their lips like crazy? Somebody does. Something does, right? Some kind of an animal of some sort. I don't know this for a fact, but it seems like elephants probably smack their lips like crazy.
So, what did Jesus teach us to do? To be a real neighbor like the Samaritan. Sophia.
He taught us to show love and kindness when somebody needs help.
Oh my God, this is bringing back some wild memories right now, man. I haven't been to a meeting in a while, but, you know, with Jehovah's Witnesses and everything. Back in the day when I was little, They always have this little question and answer section at meetings, right? And that's what they're portraying right now. This is the online version of their Watchtower. This is studied like every week on Sundays, and they have other book studies on Wednesdays or other days of the week. Anyways, they always write single paragraphs, and the paragraphs are numbered, and they have a question that you're supposed to answer at the end of the paragraph. The paragraph answers the question. And when you're in this question and answer segment at the meetings, you're supposed to give an abbreviated answer that the paragraph already told you and maybe relate it to your life in some way. So, the question: why were the Babylonians impressed by the prophet Daniel? The prophet Daniel was a young man when the Babylonians made him a prisoner of war and dragged him far away from his homeland. I don't even know that any of this is true. It's very likely all made up. But Daniel obviously impressed his captors. They saw what appeared to the eyes that Daniel was without any defect of good appearance, and that he came from an influential family. For those reasons, the Babylonians trained him to become an elite member of their society. And now, after reading that paragraph, the book study conductor or the Watchtower conductor or whatever will ask the question, why were the Babylonians impressed by the prophet Daniel? Everybody in the congregation raises their hand and waits to be called on, and they'll pick out the youngest kid in the audience or the one that doesn't answer very often, and they'll, couple of people on each side with microphones. Back in my day, they didn't have these metal things. You stick the microphone out for you to talk, They would hand the microphone down, and it was connected to a wire. And I was actually one of those people that used to walk the microphone up and down, set up the sound system and stuff. It's a privilege that I got because I was an elite Jehovah's Witness. Anyway, yeah, seeing this brings back some horrific memories right here. So now you have that context. Listen to this part again.
So, what did Jesus teach us to do? To be a real neighbor like the Samaritan.
What did Jesus teach us to do to be a real neighbor like the Samaritans?
Sophia.
He taught us to show love and kindness when somebody needs help.
So that is how they program the propaganda in, to bring it back around full circle. They ask a question, then they give you the answer, and then they have you tell the answer back to them. That's how they study the Bible, quote unquote. They're not even studying the Bible. They're talking about their interpretation of certain verses. And trust me, they get pretty loose with their interpretations pretty often. Anyways, everything that Jehovah's Witnesses teach or learn or spread at doors comes directly from the governing body, not from other Jehovah's Witnesses. There's no room for independent thought in this organization. It is entirely coming from the organization. It might feel like it's coming from you because you're rewording it. It's not.
Priya! Over here!
So everyone else in Sophia's class has already heard Oliver Garbage and doesn't want to hear it again. She found a new mark in somebody that is of a different religious background and brand new in the school and doesn't know about her Jehovah's Witnesshood or whatever you'd call it.
Hi, I'm Sophia.
Hello.
I like your outfit.
Where'd you get it?
My mom made it. It's from my country. They call it a salwar kameez. This one is my favorite color.
What's it like where you live?
Yeah, anyway, I guess it's all about bringing in new people, making friends with them. What I was told when I was little is it's my own territory. When you go knocking on doors, they give you territory maps that you cover, and you mark down the streets that you've hit. And then when you finish that territory, when you finish that whole little section, neighborhood or whatever, you turn it back in, and it goes to the back of the pile. And then people who check out new territories come from the front of the pile. So they cycle through every single area in the district, the county, or the whatever it is that they cover. They print off maps for everywhere in the area, and they hit every house. So over a 5-year period, you will be visited by Jehovah's Witnesses at some point, unless you put your house on the do not call list, and they write it on the back of the territory map. It may work differently since technology has had a big boom since I was in it, but that's how they did it back in the day. They'll write your name on the back of the territory map, say, don't go to house 3A on this street or whatever. They asked not to be called on, basically. There are some communities that you can't access because they're gated communities or whatever, right? Especially in like New York City, you can't access a lot of buildings. So as a kid, it's my responsibility to preach to everybody I know at school because they might be from those gated communities. They may not have another opportunity to hear this message. It was my responsibility to make sure everybody knew I was a Jehovah's Witness at school. Didn't end well. Trust me. It does not end well like this. By the way, I'm sorry, JASA Proxy says, according to census.gov, New York City is 39.8% white, 23.4% black, 0.5% Native or Alaska Native, 14.2% Asian, 0.1% Native Islander, 7.1% two or more races, 30 roughly percent Hispanic, white, and no other race, 31.9%. Jews generally identify as white, I think, in this area, or at the very least, Ashkenazi Jews do. Sephardic Jews may identify more as like Middle Eastern or Spanish or whatever, but Ashkenazis generally identify as white. So it's hard to tell if Jews included themselves in that census number or not. I would consider Jews to be like their own ethnic minority here because there are a lot of Jewish people in New York City, like a lot. I think the Upper East Side is made up of 50% Jewish people or something like that. So I wonder how white people compare against everybody else with the Jewish community removed from that demographic. It'd be an interesting number to identify or a number to analyze. We may never have that number, though, because, it's like a self-identifying survey, and Jews identify as white generally, which they are. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying that they're their own ethnic minority, too. Check out this next one, Making Friends, Lesson 25. You may not watch Caleb and Sophia very often. If you don't, I'll just tell you, this is a Jehovah's Witness gathering. All of these people here are from the congregation. They show them in their various other videos. This is Sister Elsa. She eventually dies. This dude in the back here, they help him clean his house from time to time in the show. Making Friends. The episode about making friends starts out with you hanging out with other Jehovah's Witnesses. There's a distinct point being made here. You're not supposed to be friends with outsiders. They make that clear in other episodes. They're being a little more subtle about it here, but they're pretty open in the future. Not gonna lie, those sandwiches look metal as f***.
Sister Elsa, did you paint these?
I did.
They're amazing. How long have you been drawing?
So if you notice here, Sophia is bored to tears, sitting all alone, because there are no other children around, right? Making friends entails going to Jehovah's Witness gatherings and making friends with somebody there, even if it's not somebody your own age. And trust me, there's nobody my age at the Kingdom Hall. Well, there were a couple, but, they didn't really like me. We didn't get along. So we just, I was alone. I didn't have any friends when I was little at all. I wasn't allowed to. That's what's being portrayed here. Sophia being bored to tears, sitting on this couch alone and finding the first person she sees and striking up conversation. That's what you're supposed to do. Don't be friends with outsiders. Be friends with insiders.
As long as I can remember, it's my way of being able to share all the stories of my life.
Could you show me?
Yes. Of course. I remember a time when I was young and in East Germany. We weren't allowed to do our work as Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, East Germany was controlled by the Americans after the war. But I guess it's saying that this is still under occupation. Germany wasn't split into East or West yet. Wonder why she made that distinction. Jehovah's Witnesses were banned and actually persecuted in Germany in World War II. That's true. I keep confusing East Germany and West Germany. Damn it. For some reason, when she said East Germany, I was thinking the American side, not the USSR side, not the Russian side. I don't know why I keep mixing the two up.
We were under ban. I helped in copying our Watchtower magazines by hand and then hiding them in food.
You did?
Yes, we'd then send the food to our brothers who were in prison. I was also asked to help in distributing Bible literature to our congregations as an underground messenger.
Wow.
Time passed and then things started getting better in Berlin. Shortly after, I immigrated to New York, and I met my darling husband.
Is that where they supposedly live now, is in New York? I don't think they ever expressly say where Caleb and Sophia live.
Wow, that was a great story.
Thank you. But I'm sure you have stories. What do you like to draw?
Making friends with insiders. That's what this is about. Remember the title of the video? Make friends with insiders, whether they're your age or not.
Well, actually, here. This was the time when Caleb and I went to the park and we met a little girl there. I'm glad I reached out that day. Lasting friends can be of any age when they love Jehovah.
Wow, the end. That was a short one. Yep. Just make friends with insiders is the point. Like I said, they get way more direct at that point later in other episodes. We'll eventually get there if we haven't already. Lesson 45, why obey God if we can't see him? This is an example of Sophia having a friend at school and them drawing out what you should be talking to that friend about.
Hey, Sophia, I want the answer.
This is a callback to another episode where somebody offered to help her cheat on a test, and she refused it.
That's okay.
And instead of, writing down what she thought the answer might be, she just left it blank entirely. Really? You're not even trying. The point behind the episode that we're watching that they're calling back to was, don't go to college. There's no point. Learn a basic trade like plumbing or carpentry or something and work with the other Jehovah's Witnesses in the congregation. Because when God destroys the planet and creates a paradise for everybody to live on where everybody except for Jehovah's Witnesses is dead, you're going to have to rebuild the place. So learn those skills now. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses want and what they openly say to you. So this was another episode propagandistically trying to convince kids to not try in school. Don't bother. You're not going to college anyway. Why do you even care? Learn exactly enough to be a tradesman, and that's it.
So what happened after the math test?
He tried to give her the answer, but...
Hey, why didn't you take the answer?
Yeah, you could be the best in the class.
Some things are just more important.
Like what?
Like being honest.
See, this is how propaganda works. It's framed like it's a message about honesty, which is a message everybody can agree with. But it's really about something else. You know, the KKK used to do this exact tactic that we're watching here. I'm not drawing a parallel between the KKK and Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm drawing a parallel between types of propaganda. The KKK, if something was happening that they didn't like, they would come up with something that would scare everybody around them, convince them that this thing was bad and nobody wanted it. For example, when the United States was on its way to integration, when they were mixing schools, when there were no more white-only schools allowed officially, and they walked the first black child into an integrated school with soldiers by her side, if I remember correctly. When that happened, the KKK started spreading the idea that integration is going to include the U.S. government forcing your child to marry a black kid. That's part of it. They must marry a black kid. This is from the 1950s. Segregation officially ended with the Civil Rights Act, I believe, in 1964. But it was all being discussed at this point. There were neighborhoods that were segregated. And this is a case study about a black family that moved into a white neighborhood for the first time in the 50s.
Some of the people are definitely against integration. And they have told my children that they have to marry.
See what I'm saying?
And my child doesn't even know what a is, but from the sound, it has scared them, and they have come home just crying. Mommy, do I have to marry Negress?
You're seeing what I'm saying here, right? This is the way propaganda has been constructed since the dawn of time. Find something that moderate, middle-of-the-road people can agree with you on. Nobody should be forced to marry anybody they don't want to marry. And then claim the other side's trying to force you to do that. That is the nature of propaganda. Nobody should cheat on a test. Agreed. That's not the ultimate point behind the video. Ultimately, the point was you shouldn't be bothering. You shouldn't be trying. You shouldn't be putting this much effort or interest into succeeding in school. You should just get through it, do what you need to do, and walk out. Be done with it. And I feel that that's pretty firmly established when you see that she didn't even write an answer. She left it blank. Don't even try. That kind of gives the game away. If it was about being honest, she would have written her own answer. It's also known as a dog whistle. This is a message that Jehovah's Witnesses will get if they're watching, but people on the outside won't necessarily understand if they don't understand the context behind what's being said and the internal culture of the Jehovah's Witness religion.
Sophia, if you did take the answers, who would know?
Jehovah.
But why obey God if we can't even see him?
Well,
Wow, now she's like freaking out like, wow, she's got a really good point. Why should we believe any of this garbage?
Dad, how can I show Zoe that Jehovah sees us?
Wait, that wasn't what the question was. The question was, how can I show Zoe that I see God? She said, why bother if you can't even see him, not that he can't even see you?
We don't see Jehovah, but how do you know he's there?
You don't. And by the way, God's name's not Jehovah. It was Yahweh in the Old Testament. Jehovah is a bastardized version of the holy name that passed through various regions and languages and accents and eventually ended up as some completely different name than it originally was. J's didn't even exist until the 1400s. I just have to put that on record. Bothers me every time I hear the name Jehovah.
How do you know he's there?
From the Bible. But Zoe just started learning.
True. Can you think of something from Jehovah she's already seen?
If you're talking about a miracle, then no. If you're talking about like the rest of the planet, how do I know that Yahweh was the one that created it rather than any other god in the multitude of gods that exist out there?
Creation. It's the last paragraph here.
So they're looking at a Jehovah's Witness book, the Great Teacher Book. I think it's designed for kids. It's a little bit different than the Bible story book, but it's designed to teach Jehovah's Witness doctrine to children. And she brought a copy for her little buddy here, I guess.
God is the one who made all these things. God made the heavens and the earth. He made people too.
What are your favorite things that God made?
So she's establishing the Bible says God created it, and that means it's true. And we know it's true because the Bible says that it's true. And we can trust the Bible because it says that it's true. How do we know it's true? The Bible says it's true. She's going in circles here, but she's stepping outside the circle for a second to ask a question built on the assumption that it is true.
Well, I love sunsets, fruit, playing with my dog.
This is so predatory, dude. It bothers me so much to know that there are kids out there trying to convert their classmates. Imagine your kid coming home asking about Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff. Ugh.
And my mom.
Aw, Jehovah made those things because he loves you. Even though I can't see him, my favorite things remind me that Jehovah sees me.
And that you always want to listen to him.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense, but whatever. So anyway, that's Jehovah's Witness propaganda for kids. I think it's cringy as it gets. And there is some dude laying on his horn outside. He is so upset over something. Anyways, the horn isn't the angriest sound a car can make. Anyways, that's Jehovah's Witness propaganda. It's just as cringy as it gets, man. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I keep confusing East Germany and West Germany. Damn it. For some reason, when she said East Germany, I was thinking the American side, not the USSR side, not the Russian side. I don't know why I keep mixing the two up. East Germany was controlled by the Eastern states. West Germany created by the Western world. The Russians didn't treat people much better than the Nazis. Not much better. They treated them like shit, and they took everything that they owned, and it was ugly. Jehovah's Witnesses were already banned in that area at that time, and the Russians just maintained that ban, basically. There's an article written on The Guardian that has a variety of anti-religious propaganda posters from from the USSR. All the way from, I think, the early 1900s clear through to when the Soviet Union fell, basically. We've got some from 1923. We've got one from 1924, all making fun of religion, discouraging people from being religious, that type of deal. And this is a really interesting poster, 1975. The most prominent cosmonaut atheist was German Titov, whose flight in August 1961 followed Yuri Gagarin's that April. In 1962, he told an audience at the Seattle World's Fair that he had seen no gods or angels in space and that he believed in mankind's strength and reason. This poster, titled "There Is No God," commemorates him. Look at this. Poster is in 1977. The radio is broadcasting Ave Maria, slander of the USSR, anti-Sovietism, and our father, conflating religion with political attack. The caption reads, "Another gullible sectarian is glad to hear prayers from over there. They are, as a rule, stained with outright anti-Sovietism." Wild. And this is the one I wanted to get to right here. This is a Jehovah's Witness poster. Now, this is from the USSR, not from Germany in World War II. The USSR. East Germany. Actually, this is from 1962, so it's, 15 years after Germany fell to the Soviet Union, give or take 15 years. There was a long history of demonizing certain religious communities, obviously, the Jews, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and many others. And in Germany, a lot of the time, when they demonize one of those religious communities, they dehumanize them and portray them in warped ways. They warp their characteristics, their features, and create stereotyped imagery. Some of this may be offensive to people, but I feel like it's part of history and it needs to be shown. Here's an example. This is from a film, a propaganda film, called The Eternal Jew, produced in 1940 in Nazi Germany. And as you can see, they have warped what a Jewish person looks like. They made a stereotype picture of him, and then they gave him a big nose and an evil look on his face and a high forehead and the sideburns and everything else. They stereotype what people look like, and then they exaggerate the features. And that's what happened with Jehovah's Witnesses here. Their chin sticks out. Their nose is really big. They've got pointy ears like they're some kind of a devil of some sort. They have almost no hair on their head. They have claws for hands, that type of thing. And you can see he has cameras for eyes. If you look closely, I'll zoom in a little bit here. You can see that there are cameras in his eyes, and there's a radio in his ear. And he's just repeating everything that he hears, which, that's fair enough. That's true. But the cameras for eyes were an implication that he was spying for America, for the Americans, plotting against the Soviet Union. The claim is that they're a political organization, which they've never been. Again, produced in 1962, the Soviets regarded Jehovah's Witnesses as subversive agents. Newspaper Izvestia described them as an international political organization deployed against communism. The sect of Jehovists, I love it, Jehovists, carries out espionage activities on the directives of the USA. This poster depicts a witness with spying equipment in his eyes and ears, and whose caption reads, "Don't believe his meekness. He doesn't care about the soul. Such a witness of Jehovah is a traitor to the motherland, a spy." I should have remembered that they were banned in Eastern Germany. I should have realized that Eastern Germany was controlled by the USSR, not the US. I keep mixing it up. They did not treat Jehovah's Witnesses well, or any religious or ethnic minorities, really. So the name Jehovah, I was going to give a short explanation of how we know it's not God's name. The original Hebrew language that the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, was written in, it didn't have vowels. It used single consonants, and people used cultural context clues to fill in the vowels and the pronunciations. So the original name of God was written as YHWH. Jews were the ones that were producing Bibles, like all the way up to like the 1st century and beyond. They were the ones that were writing them and mass producing them. And they had a superstition about the sacred name. You're not supposed to pronounce a sacred name. Even now, you can find examples of Jews not saying the word God or not spelling it out. They'll put G-D instead. It's just a weird superstition that kind of carried on through the culture. So to prevent anybody from accidentally pronouncing the holy name of Yahweh, they filled in the vowels with vowels that didn't belong there. They filled them in with vowels from the word Adonai, which means Lord. When you fill in the vowels and merge the words together, you get YAHOWAH, Yahovah, Adonai. And as that name passed through Germanic regions, it got morphed by the accent and pronunciations and spellings of that area. And eventually, Y's pronounced like J's, W's pronounced like V's. It morphed from Yahovah to Jehovah. The first appearance of the name Jehovah was in the King James, I think in the 1400s, and it was Iehova. But it was pronounced Jehovah in the 1400s. Eventually, in successive versions of the King James Bible, it was spelled with a J. When the J was invented as a letter, it was filled in there. In largely atheist countries, how do Jehovah's Witnesses recruit? Door to door. Just like they always have, door to door. They even have people in China. This is probably really the heart of your question. Maybe where it's banned, how do they recruit? In China, Jehovah's Witnesses are banned. And there is a presence in China. They just have to go from friend to friend. They create a friend group, and then they spread the message to the friends. They have to be extremely careful. Same as in Russia. They don't go knocking on doors. They just make friends and then spread the message. If it's a fully atheist country and they're not banned, there's no interest, they'll continue knocking on doors. Yeah, anyway, let me know what you think about all of that in the comments. I think Jehovah's Witnesses are ridiculous and disgusting to produce propaganda like that. A lot more subtle than the propaganda that was used against them in the 1940s all the way clear through to the 1980s, or hell, even propaganda that's being produced now. Much more subtle than that, but it's propaganda nonetheless. Tell me what you think.